Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us for another Experiences Living Abroad. I'm here with Inês. Nice to meet you. Nice to see your face again. How are you?
Pretty good. How are you?
I am doing well. So tell our viewers, where are you from?
I'm from Portugal. I lived in Lisboa for a very long time, but I'm actually from a small town in the middle of the country, actually. I'm a countryside girl.
Well, what's the name of that small town?
Oh, you want to get scared with the Portuguese pronunciation?
Oh, I'm not even going to know how to spell it. I'm not putting captions under this.
It's called Ponte de Sur.
Mm.
That wasn't so bad, was it?
No, it kind of wasn't. Okay.
It's literally bridge over Sur. Sur is the river, and bridge
Okay.
is so Ponte de Sur.
Beautiful. So tell me, you moved out of the country. You moved out of Portugal a couple times. So talk to us about the first time you moved out of the country and where'd you go?
So I've always really liked to travel. So I always traveled a lot. I'm used to traveling many, many times. The first time I got off the country to live abroad for a longer period of time, other than 1 month, was when I left to Thailand and I wanted to learn Thai massage and I wanted to experience meditation and all that stuff. So I left and I was there for about 6 months. So that was my first experience living outside my own country for longer than a couple of weeks or a month.
And how did you go through navigating how to leave Portugal to go to stay in Thailand for 6 months?
So the community support is very important.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did at first was I just researched in Facebook groups. At the time, it wasn't really Facebook; it was another platform of social media. But I kind of connected with other people that had done the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I connected
From
with
Portugal specifically, or just from other parts of the
just
country?
from other parts of Europe because I was
Europe.
moving
Okay.
outside of Europe. So I
Mm-hmm.
knew that in Portugal, I would have the same rules as someone would be in France, for example.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I connected with other people that would that the rules would apply the same as in Portugal. So that's the first thing I did to understand how am I going to be able to stay in Thailand for longer than the tourist visa kind of thing, which
Right.
is 3 months.
Right. And so when you moved to Thailand, how did you go about finding employment?
So when I was in Thailand, actually, the employment, if you want to call it that way, I was volunteering a lot. So it was more on a volunteer basis. Um, it's not that easy to work in Thailand if you are a European citizen. So
Mm-hmm.
you can only work there if you have like a proper contract and if you are connected to a specific company or if you're married to a Thai person. So in my case, it was a lot easier to just volunteer. This is what I did when I was there.
And so when you volunteer, that basically you volunteer and they give you a place to stay and that type of thing. Is that how that works?
Yes, they gave me a place to stay. They gave me food. And in exchange, I used to work for a few hours. Plus, I used to learn a lot of things as well. So it was a positive experience back then.
Awesome. And what made you leave Thailand?
So I left Thailand. I wanted to pursue other things here in Portugal. I wanted to pursue shiatsu, which was my next training in massage. Yeah, plus I missed my home country. And I was like, okay, this 6 months for now, it's enough to start my journey outside Portugal. So yeah,
Mhm.
it felt pretty good to come back.
And after Thailand, where'd you move after that?
After Thailand, I spent a couple of years in Portugal and I moved to Australia,
Mm.
where I lived for a little bit longer than a year. And yeah, that was pretty amazing. It was pretty amazing too.
And what took you to Australia?
Um, I always dreamed about going to Australia, actually.
Okay.
It was one of my dreams was to go to the kangaroo land. And honestly, it was honestly always, it has always bewitched me. I was always so in awe of Australia and the Australian culture. And I was just very curious of how it would be like to live like on the opposite hemisphere. So yeah, I that was one of the main reasons it took me there and the nature, which is
Mhm.
unbelievably beautiful.
And how did you start that journey of learning how you can move to Australia?
So at the time, I wanted to move to Australia, but I wasn't sure how I was going to move there because you need a whole range of paperwork to move to Australia. Again, because it's a country outside of the European Union, outside of Europe. So I was like, okay, how am I gonna pull this through? And I was gonna just go.
Hmm.
That's what I normally do. I just go. But in this case, I was like, maybe I should just be careful with this one and pay more attention to this. So what I did was I went to a job fair in London, which was called Working In International. It's like an international company called Working In, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
So it's a company that organizes job fairs and immigration fairs and gives you all sorts of information of how to move abroad to a country outside of European Union. So at the time they had Canada, New Zealand, and Australia. And they had a massive job fair in London where they would point out what would be the possibilities or the different kinds of visa that you could get in order to move to one of these three countries. So it was then that I knew the kind of visa I wanted to take, what kind of job I wanted to have. So it was really, really helpful because, when you're looking for this kind of stuff, people tell you different things. And then one person tells you one thing, and then you go check another information. And it was so confusing for me. So this really helped me.
So when you went to the job fair, did you actually get hired and that's how you moved to Australia, or how'd that work?
No. So I went to the job fair, and it was at the job fair that I realized what kind of visa I wanted.
Okay.
Because I didn't really want to go as a part of a company. There are people who did that. I met people there that, did that. They got a job there and they went through a company. But I wanted to have more freedom in terms of what I would want to do. So what I did is I took a working holiday visa. It's a kind of visa that you can only get until you're 31. So it was in my final year. So I was like, okay, this is a deadline for me. I'm just going to do it while I still can make it. So what I did was I took that visa, and in that visa, you can basically be there, work anywhere, and just be there for a year.
Okay.
So without being hired by any company, without being affiliated with anybody or anything.
But you have to be 31 or younger to do it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
If you are older than that, the options would be going through a company or going through. There was a girl there that I met, and she was leaving Australia every 3 months, and she would get a visa outside, and she would come back because 3 months is a tourist visa. So as long as you stay there for 3 months, get out, get a new one, and come back. You can also do that.
So you went to Australia. You didn't go having a job. You just went, you got the appropriate visa, and you just went. So how was that experience, just moving to a whole nother country?
It was freaking frightening at first.
Okay.
Gotta tell you, not gonna lie, it was pretty frightening because I was also alone, and it was like on the other side of the world. And I was like, okay, what am I doing here? What the hell? But then I was like, okay, this is normal every time you move to a different country, right? Every time you do a new thing, your brain is always like, okay, this is not comfortable. Get out while you can. So at first it was really uncomfortable, but you just push through those few weeks. The first weeks are the hardest.
I would agree.
And then you just, settle in. You create a community, which again is super important. You start connecting with people, and then a friend that knew a friend of a girl that I met got me a job, and that's how I started. Then you get the first job, and then it's like, oh, okay, all right, this is not that hard.
Starting to feel normal. So what did you do specifically to start finding that community in the various countries you lived in? How did you go about finding community in those countries?
So I used to go on Facebook, and I would go to the expat groups, of that country. For example, I would go to the expat group of Melbourne, which is the first city that I landed. I used to go there, and I used to be like, hey guys, I'm going to move there next week. Anybody has any cool tips of places to stay? Anybody want to catch up for a coffee? And then, you'd be surprised how many people reply to you. There's a big, friendship zone in the community of expats in any different countries. So it was really helpful for me to definitely.
And so what made you come back to Portugal after being in Australia?
So actually, when I got back from Australia, I didn't move to Portugal straight away. I moved to the Netherlands.
Ah, okay.
So yeah,
I love it. I haven't been, but I'm so pressed to go. As soon as this pandemic is over, I'm so pressed to go to another.
I'm just gonna go with the flow. So I came back to Europe, and I thought, okay, I thought I was going to be in Australia, and I thought I was going to, come back with, with a lot of money and possessions to build, a lot of stuff. But actually, when you're in Australia, you just want to travel everywhere because it's so gorgeous. You just want to be there. You just want to enjoy the culture. And it's like, man, how often do I get to be on the other side of the world? So I came back to Europe and I was like, okay, am I going to go back to Portugal? And the situation here economically was not the best back then. Yeah, I had a couple of friends in the Netherlands. I went to visit there for a week. And after a week, I had a job. And then I ended up staying there. So I stayed there for 2 years.
Awesome. So after the Netherlands, where did you go?
Portugal. Okay.
Came back to Portugal. Now, what brought you back to Portugal from the Netherlands?
Okay. So what brought me back to Portugal? Actually, the longing for building something, you know, like there comes a time when I want to settle a little bit more. You're like, okay, like this is really nice, the traveling experiences and living abroad. But at the end of the day, I really love my country. I love Portugal. It's freaking gorgeous here. You can attest to that.
Yes.
It's really gorgeous here and you really appreciate what you have when you're not here. So yeah, I wanted to come back and, you know, build something here, you know, give continuity to my businesses and just settling a little bit more, be closer to my family, friends.
Now, was it difficult transitioning back into your life in Portugal after, you know, moving to so many different countries?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Like how so?
Well, you get used to you fit, especially the Netherlands, you know, it's like there's a big difference between the Netherlands mentality and Portugal mentality. So it's like the first thing is people in Holland are always on time and us Portuguese, we are never on time. But I'm telling you,
that's definitely been an adjustment for me.
Yeah, there you go. You know how when I got back from the Netherlands, you know, people used to tell me 8 o'clock and, you know, I'm there 8. Of course, I'm the first one, you know, and it's like, oh my God, it's 8. And then it's like, oh, wait, I'm in Portugal. Right. And then, you know, 8:15, people started arriving, 8:20, and 8:30, almost everybody is there. And, you know, that was one of the adjustments. You know, it's just different cultures, different mentalities, different ways of being, different kinds of niceness in people. You know, people in Portugal are warmer than in the Netherlands, for example.
And so what advice would you give to those individuals who are interested in moving abroad, but maybe people who live in Portugal specifically? Maybe there's someone in Portugal who wants to go out there and try another country. What recommendation do you have for them?
Well, I would say keep an open mind. That's the first one. And always push through the first weeks. Always. It's normal to be scared at first. It's natural to feel like a fish out of the water at first. And this is normal. You know, if you make it through those past uncomfortable moments, the first uncomfortable moments, you're good, you know, but you have to just be able to push through and build a community. That's super, super, super important. You know, connect to people as much as you can. And activities.
I would agree with that. I would say at least, I think I felt better after like maybe 3 weeks to a month.
Yeah.
It took about that long. And then after that, I'm like, hey, I'm never going back. You know, and just in regards to building community, I know that's critical. And just, you know, be gracious when you reach out to people and strangers and take your time, be easy. Don't just inundate them with a whole bunch of questions and, you know, just be gentle and treat them strangers the way you would want someone to treat you, because that's
so important.
Really important as it relates to community. And do you have any advice for those individuals who are considering moving abroad?
I would say, first of all, just explore your options and be like, okay, like, what do I want to do in this country? Do I want to travel? Do I want to work? Do I want to explore? And it's very important to have this already set in your mind before you go, because that's one less thing you're thinking about in the first weeks you're in somewhere, you know, like if you go with the mindset, I'm not sure what I'm going to do, then everything is out in the open and it may leave you a bit confused. So maybe it would be like, okay, what do I want out of this journey? Do I want to possibly live here, or do I want to get a job, or do I just want to visit? So I think that's a very, very important one. And, you know, get to know the culture a little bit. Get to know the culture a little bit before you go. Get to know a couple of good places you want to meet, you want to visit. So yeah, that would be one of the recommendations I would give to people.
No, I like that. And so how do you think moving abroad has changed your perspective on life?
You know, moving abroad, especially moving abroad alone, it's like you get a new perspective over issues in your life. You know, suddenly stuff doesn't look so serious anymore. So it kind of widens your horizons a lot. And you know, one of the things you were talking about this before, which was be kind to other people that are moving here. You know, that totally changed me, you know, in that way. I see people that just moved here, and some people who may have not lived abroad so much as I did. They may be, you know, like, oh, you know, there they go again with their questions. And I'm like, oh my God, like, I totally get you guys. Like, let's create a safe nest for you. And
Mhm.
that, I would say that that definitely changed the way that I see foreigners and the way that I treat expats in my own country.
Awesome. I love it. Well, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Welcome.
Oh, we almost forgot. We have to tell our viewers that you are actually teaching the Portuguese classes.
I
You
am.
guys have asked me over and over again to do the Portuguese classes. So our classes are still set. We're going, but we have some new ones coming up. So I will include a link in the description where you can sign up for that. There is a maximum of 20 students because we want everyone to be able to get individualized attention as it was before. And Inês is going to be our teacher. So super excited about that, and more so an emphasis on English to Portuguese, and I like that because there's a variety of different things that are just so different about the two languages, and bringing that bridge together so that people who speak English will be able to transition a lot better because it is a challenge. This language is, man, it's difficult.
Oh, I know. So that's why it's cool to build that bridge.
Absolutely. So if you're interested, we'll do a formal introduction later. The link will be in the description of this interview. And if the class tends to start, because this video will be up here for a while, you'll see a link that will tell you about the next time we're opening it. We probably only open it 2 to 3 times a year. And this will be the last time we're doing the class, probably until October of this year. So if you are interested, be sure to click the link below. Again, thank you so much for joining us and Experiences Living Abroad. Till next time.